Your friend Andy Williams
Yeah.
is joining the show now, and I think for a couple of guys to talk about Jamaican sports is one thing, but to get someone in here who actually is a Jamaican athlete is probably a little bit better. So, Andy, thanks so much for jumping on with us. How are you?
My pleasure. Not bad. How are you doing?
Bama, great to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
I'm a former athlete, no athlete anymore.
Well, more athletic than Matt or myself. So
I've seen you on the indoor fields, Bama. I know that athlete still describes you just fine.
I appreciate that.
Hey, so Andy, earlier on in my portion of the show, about an hour ago, we had a man named Paulton Gordon on the show. He's the president of the Jamaican Basketball Association. And I asked him about when your team made the World Cup back in 98, when you guys qualified in 97. He said it was a island-wide carnival. How would you describe your memory of that time and just how exciting it was for the fans of Jamaica?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't there for that. I was injured at the time, so I went back to Rhode Island and watched it on TV like everybody else. But talking to all my friends and family members and watching all the news reports, sports reports, like it was super, super crazy. And that's one thing if ever could go back and experience with my teammates, would have been awesome. But it was chaos for like weeks. And I think it carried over all the way to World Cup for the next, 7 months before preparing for World Cup. Every month we had, I went back in January. So, and then every month or every week there was something pertaining to World Cup partying and the kick-up for it during the summer. And it was amazing.
When you did go, when the World Cup teams announced and you have the opportunity to go, what were the weeks leading up to that World Cup like?
It was a daily event. Like we were going to companies, businesses, meeting the prime minister, the governor general. Like it was just like a nonstop, practice in the morning, events throughout the day, practice in the evening. And it was just like that for like 3 weeks before we left for France.
And then, the World Cup was what it was, and you had the opportunity. I hate to minimize it like that because say the World Cup was what it was. We'll get into the World Cup event itself in a minute, but when you got back from the World Cup, what was the reception like, and how did that change maybe perception of you as someone who had the opportunity to wear the Jamaica jersey on the biggest stage possible?
Well, it was like I'm a shy guy, and then going through that whole World Cup event, and then going through World Cup, like to be recognized on the street, like even when I go overseas, I go to Florida, New York, and just have random people just come up to me. I'm like, Andy, and I'm like, and I'm not used to that, so it took me a while to get used to it. Like even now, like sometimes I go down to Florida or even back to Jamaica, and just people's like, "You're Andy Williams." I'm like, it's okay. Maybe.
What do you think that the World Cup team and even qualifying for the World Cup did for the youth soccer playing community of Jamaica? You're a young kid growing up in Jamaica in 98. Maybe you're 10 or something like that, and you see a group of guys make the World Cup. What do you think that does to a country's youth culture?
Well, all right, go back to when I was growing up, because I used to be the ball boy for the national team, like through my 10 years old, 12 years old, and seeing those guys, they never made the World Cup, but we had a Gold Cup tournaments. We had a tournament back then called Shell Cup, Digicel Cup, and it was all the Caribbean teams that played. And watching these guys play, like I wanted to be out there. I want to represent Jamaica. That's where I grew up, and I want to be, one of the best players. And I'm sure that was the same thing for kids watching me growing up, and striving for the next goal, trying for Olympics, trying for anything like that, to be on that stage and get that recognition of being one of the best players in your country. It's pretty awesome.
And in that stage, what was that like? The first time you go out on the field, you hear the anthem, all those moments that really kind of signify what the World Cup is all about.
Well, for me, it was a whirlwind. Like, I took it for granted, to be honest, because I was just 18. 18 was my first cap, official cap for the senior team, and that whole time, once Rene Simões is the head coach at the time. He's from Brazil. He took over, and that was just like a whirlwind for me. I just took it for granted, and I just enjoyed myself. And I'm like, all right, I got 3 more World Cups to come later on in my career. So it was kind of like I remember taking pictures of all this stuff. I don't know where they are. Video camera stuff, I don't know where they are, but I just that's another thing I kind of regret. I didn't cherish it more.
We've got Tyrone Marshall backstage. Should we get a couple Jamaican soccer players with us here on the broadcast? How's that sound? Hey, Tyrone, how are you? Uh-oh, I think his mic is muted.
Yeah, sorry guys. Hey, what's going on, guys?
You're acting like you've never been on like a Zoom before, Tyrone. Like, what is this?
No, I'd muted because I had the headphones in.
Friday night, man. Friday night.
It's good to say that.
I wonder from your guys' perspective, obviously we're here talking about the Jamaican national basketball team and the goal of making it to the 2024 Olympics. That's something that the Jamaican basketball team has never done before. What was basketball as kids? Like, was that an option? Was that something that even crossed your mind? Was it a sport that was played much? Like, what was basketball to you when you were a kid?
Dude, I'm 5'8". No chance. Not for me. Not Tyrone's what, 6'2", 6'3"?
6'2", yeah.
Yeah, so
no, I mean growing up in Jamaica, I mean, when you watch basketball, you saw it being played at the national stadium when we were leaving the stadium from practices and stuff like that, or when we attended St. George's College, you saw the elder student, they were playing basketball, so it wasn't, or the guys were much taller, we were never really focused on, basketball. I mean, back then it was more soccer, cricket, the sports that we grew up with, and track and field.
And then both of our dads played football, so soccer. So yeah, we were just like, that was it for us.
When you guys first had the chance to go to Jamaica's training facility at the farm, right?
The farm.
What's the name? Tyrone, help me out here.
Ewing.
Oh,
back then it wasn't built for us.
It wasn't? Okay.
Yeah, nah. It was. We were qualifying for, like, once Rene Simões took over, he had a group of about 30, 40 players, and we all lived in a house. And it was like 6 guys to a room, bunk beds, and that's where our home base was. And woke up, had breakfast, went to practice, came back, had lunch, go out again, and it was just like that was our home base at the time. Now they built a brand new facility, and I haven't been there. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard about it. And it's world class.
What does that mean, though, for Jamaican soccer to have the financial backing, to have something like that, the financial support to build what you guys need to do to succeed within CONCACAF and qualify for a World Cup going forward?
Ready?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, it doesn't matter whichever sport, football, track and field, basketball. If you have the right infrastructure, it does give a better platform for the youth, to develop, to compete on a high level on the world stage. If you don't have the infrastructure in place, we're behind. So it's important for us to have the infrastructure in place, meaning have a great facilities to train, both turf and the grass field, as well as having dormitories where you can bring kids in or bring the national teams in and have them stay in this particular place and be able to train for X amount of time period. And if you can have that, now you create that continuity and that relationship amongst the the players to eventually grow and become familiar with each other and be able to express themselves within the group concept, and that gives you a better idea or understanding for the team to now compete on a bigger stage because everyone's familiar with each other and they know their tendencies, and you also have opportunity to learn as well and grow as a group. So yeah, the more that you can have a top quality facilities, the better it is for the program to get to a higher standard.
But also for me, you got to have commercial backing because you have all those companies that need to step in and step forward and sponsor players or sponsor the program. And I can imagine it's going the same thing our basketball team is going through right now, especially with this trying to raise money now. So back then it was a struggle. Like it was like month to month. Oh, next month nobody's getting paychecks. Next month we're not. Everybody go home. We don't have any food for this week. It was crazy, and I can imagine that this is what's probably happened right now. Hopefully it'll get better with qualifying coming up for Olympics, and hopefully people see this and help out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I don't know how that stuff gets paid for. I don't know where that money comes from, and I know we were talking with the president of the Jamaican Basketball Association about an hour ago. And that's what he said. He said one of the big hurdles is trying to have the infrastructure, trying to pay for the training and for the travel and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, I guess success would maybe lend itself to wherever that money comes from wanting to give you more of it. But how do you go about getting any of that infrastructure in the first place when there isn't really a culture of success to draw on?
Yeah, for me, I think the private sector is a big part, a big draw. And also finding people within the private sector who love the game of basketball, but also to promote their company, to be associated with the program. And if you can have it not for the short period, but for the long term, not just looking, just for next year or whenever the World Cup cycle is, or the qualification cycle for the basketball program. It has to be long term. It got to be investment looking long term. And I think that's what we've always run into for the football program and other programs. It always, you find people jump on board when it's a qualifying year. You see all the sponsors come in, but when you don't make it, then everyone disappears. So, it's sort of a bandwagonist in a sense, but if you can find people who are committed and, who want to be there for the long run, the long haul, and see the growth and development of the program and see what eventually it could lead to, I think that's what we need more of. People who have the financial backing and who just want to invest and say, hey, we want to put Jamaica on an international stage to showcase our talent and our country as a whole.
Tyrone, we talked earlier about kind of the impact of the qualifying for the World Cup, but also subsequent tournaments after that from the communities in Jamaica. What was it like to see that impact, and what was that impact like?
Oh, for me, it was a proud moment for me. Watching buddies like Andy Williams, playing on the world stage. That it just brought joy to myself, and knowing that our country is being represented on the international stage at the highest level. A small country like Jamaica, no one else would ever think that we have the capability and the talent, to play with the big boys. So for me, it was a proud moment. And also, just hearing all of the stuff that went on in Jamaica when the Reggae Boyz made violence in Jamaica. So, it's a big impact that it plays on the whole society as a whole. So yeah, it was a great moment for the country and for myself, just watch, the program get to that high standard.
And I'm not expecting anybody to know any of the particulars about the potential roster of the Olympic team. My friend Deshaun Tate, who we talked to in the first hour, was breaking that all down for us. But just based on what you know of the athletic culture, and if the infrastructure is able to be put in place, do you have any doubt that Jamaica could be a country that is producing basketball talent that could have success on an international stage in basketball competitions?
Go ahead, Andy.
Not at all. You can look at it, football, soccer, track and field, Usain Bolt, go down the line with all the Olympic athletes there. You have, West Indies cricket. We have players on that are on the international scene. And, I think you have the athletic ability to produce these quality athletes. And I have no doubt that once these guys are committed to qualifying and have the right backing or have the right support and coaching staff, I think it's a very good possibility.
Yeah, I echoed Andy. Exactly. I mean, I think that the athleticism that is there in Jamaica, is a big part of what I think, will give us that edge as well, because we just have that natural built in us. So, and especially basketball players, if you can have those guys going up and down the floor and jumping out of the arenas, that's part of the game. You just know the other part of it is bringing in quality, players. Because I know you have some good players that are playing in the universities here in the States. So imagine that you can attract these guys, or also parents who are Jamaican background as well. If you can have the infrastructure, like Andy's saying, and the platform to bring these guys in to represent Jamaica, that's a big part of it. But yeah, the athleticism that we do present within our culture, I think it's a big advantage for us for sure.
All right. So if all this goes as hoped, and Jamaica can qualify for the 2024 Olympics, kind of ironically in France, where Andy you
yeah.
What would that mean for Jamaica to be able to put basketball on the map the same way that football was in 1998?
First of all, I forgot to mention the women's football team that qualified for France World Cup. And like I said, they had the backing, they had the support, and they did it. So I honestly believe if we can do the same thing for the basketball team, 2024 Olympics would be a triple coincidence in France again.
Yeah. Just about to say that too. Yeah. That's so ironic. That's it. Football, France, the women's team made it to France, and now the basketball team could make it to France. That'd be great, man.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, fellas, we appreciate it. Tyrone,
absolutely.
Andy, thank you guys so much for the time tonight.
Vamos.
What do you got there? Rolling Rock? Heineken. Nice. Awesome.
Friday night.
Enjoy it for me, Tyrone.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Andy Williams and Tyrone Marshall, nice enough to hang out with us for a few minutes and just talk about the sporting culture in Jamaica. It is incredibly ironic. How weird is that the World Cup, the men's World Cup team, their tournament was in France. The women qualified, their tournament was in France. And if the 2024 Jamaican men's basketball team can make it, that also would be in Paris. That's pretty crazy. Hopefully they do better than the men's soccer team did.